Coming up next on Living on the Edge with Chip Ingram.
Who out there could be a Paul in my life right now? Who out there could be a Barnabas that I could share life? Who could be a Timothy that, and you know what? You only have to be a half a step ahead of someone to teach them what you know.
Welcome to Living on the Edge. My name's Chip Ingram, and we're in a series called Good to Great in God's Eyes. And if you want to change, and if you really long to change, and you feel like you know God, but it just doesn't seem to work, this series may be very helpful for you. What I've learned is there's certain practices that great Christians have in common. We learned earlier they think great thoughts, they read great books, and then we began on pursuing great people. When you meet people that God looks down upon the earth and He sees a life of love and compassion, of holiness, winsome relationships, I mean, the kind of person that is great in His eyes, they not only think great thoughts and put good things into their mind and read good books, but they hang out with people. See, more is caught than taught. They hang out with people of faith. They hang out and rub up against people who have some convictions and some values that they don't just go into your head, they catch them in their heart. In our last broadcast, I talked about creating your own spiritual Mount Rushmore. And as we begin the teaching today, I'm going to finish that out. But I talked about a coach in junior high that taught me how to be a man. I talk about my sister who, I did not grow up as a Christian, never opened a Bible. But she, when she came to Christ, lived the kind of life that when I saw her, I thought, boy, I don't know what she has, but I want to be that kind of Christian if I would ever become a Christian. And then I talked about a bricklayer who really taught me what it meant to be a man of God. And in this session, I'm going to talk about the most important person that really has changed my life, is that's my relationship with my wife, Teresa. I'm going to challenge you, make your own spiritual Mount Rushmore. And then we're going to talk about 3 kinds of people that everyone needs in your life. You want to grow, you want to change. I'll help you discover who these people are and how to find them. Join me, won't you?
More really is caught than taught. Who are the people in your Mount Rushmore? Mine was a coach, another my sister, another Dave, and the 4th over here is Howard Hendricks. And you've heard lots of stories, but I learned from Howard Hendricks that you could take your gift and you could dream a dream and you could have clear, I still can remember, I was just with him last week or so, and I can still remember on the board him writing objectives, priorities, schedule, discipline. God will never love you more than He loves you right now, gentlemen. It's a decent imitation. He said, but His blessing is dependent upon your obedience. You can never earn His favor. There's no brownie points, no gold stars on the refrigerators in heaven. But every man needs to make up his mind, what do you want to do with your life? So you need to have an objective and a target. You want to be a man of God? Determine, I want to be a man of God. And if you want to be a man of God, it has to be a priority, more important than anything or anyone else. And then you have to put that in your schedule and say, what does it look like? When will you get up? What will you read? What will you do? And then you got to discipline yourself to do it, not to earn anybody's favor but God's. Those 4 things. You know, Prof taught me that you're given gifts and life's a stewardship. And God really does want to bless ordinary people. Who's on your Mount Rushmore mentally right now? Who are those people? Because it's going to tell you where the needs surface. It's going to tell you what antennas, because those needs that those people met are going to be the needs also probably in the future. Well, I'm going to give you my last one. Right in the center where everyone else looks is the person who has impacted my life more than Howard Hendricks or Punky or Dave Marshall or Coach, and that is my wife. My wife has had more impact on my life than anyone else because she has more integrity. I live up close. She has more integrity than anyone I know. She has more devotion to God, evidenced by watching her get up for years and get up in the wee hours of the morning, even when we had small kids. And I've seen her on her knees, and I heard her cry out for God. And I've watched her pray, and I've watched her support me. She is more mentally tough than any player in any game on any team. I've ever played on. And it's something I admire. There just ain't no give up in Teresa. And those of you that know her story, she was a single mom for a while. And she had a tiny little boy on each hip and no way to support herself and trying to figure out what to do. And she clung to God and came to Christ, and God supplied. And I'll tell you what, we've been through times digging quarters out of the back seat. You know, just not, $5, $6, $7, $8 in a co-op and taking the fruit and vegetables to live on. And you know what? I've never heard her complain about our lifestyle. I've never, ever heard cry. And so far, every time we move, she knows for sure it's God's will, and she knows she doesn't want to do it. I mean, it's just a pattern. Don't take me out to that little place. And she cried in the Chinese restaurant. And then when we went from Kaufman to all the way out to California, she and all the kids cried, all the way to Amarillo. And then when it was California back to Atlanta, she cried. And you know what? There's a lot of women who say, honey, if you want to go, you just go ahead. My family's here, things are here. My wife submits to God and does what he wants her to when it feels good and when it's terribly painful. And she's changed my life more than anyone else. She's filled the gaps and the wounds and the deficits more than anybody else. If you want to pursue great people, start first with your rearview mirror. And I would encourage you as just a little discipline. You can change the faces, It's okay. But go through and jot down the 4 or 5 people that have most impacted your life, and you will begin to see exactly who God has used and likely the roles that he'll want to use in the future. Next, I encourage you to look out of the windshield of your life. And out of the windshield, we all need 3 kinds of people. And since Howard Hendricks was my mentor, I want to give credit here. This isn't from me, this is from him. But see, I caught it more than it was taught. And Prof. Hendricks would tell you and tell me we all need 3 kinds of people. Number 1, we all need a Paul in our life. We need someone to learn from. Second, we all need a Barnabas, a friend, a peer, someone to share life with, someone that you're just hand in hand, arm in arm. You're on the same page, at the same level. And third, we all need a Timothy. We need someone that we're helping grow. A Barnabas, someone you share life with, a Timothy, someone that you give life to, and a Paul, someone who helps you. So let me ask you, you got a Paul in your life? You have a person in your life that is kind of a go-to person that helps you grow, that they're a few miles down the road spiritually than you, and you can talk to them and ask them and pray with them? Do you have a Barnabas? Do you have a soulmate? Do you have someone that you can just, you're in this life together. You can pick up the phone and instantly you're on the same page? And then do you have a Timothy? Do you have someone that you are building into their life and praying by God's grace that what Dave did in my life and what Prof did in my life, they'll be in yours? I'll give you 3 quick examples because it's very rare to have ones that are in your life for a long period of time, right? We move. A lot of things happen. What I find is that Paul may be this person this year, another person 2 years from now, another person, and the different roles for different seasons of your life. And you know what? But now and then, you get a Paul that sticks around and a Barnabas that sticks around and a Timothy that sticks around that I think is both rare and precious. And I've shared, and my dad, we're real open about this, and we've had great talks and been able to share openly as we've grown. But I went to a little country church, and man, I needed a father figure. And there's a guy on the elder board there named AC. And he just took me under his wing. And we worked out together, and I shared struggles with him. My older boys were like 3rd grade then. And I've known him 22 years. I was 28 years old when I went out to that little church. You know how much that protects you? So you got to pursue great people. Got to go after them. You also need a Barnabas. I had a fellow that we just linked hearts, first basketball trip out, a guy named Glenn Miller. And Glenn was a man of devotion and heart and love, and he went off later to be a missionary in Sri Lanka, later became a pastor, and for 20 years, Glenn and I have stayed in touch, and he's just been a peer. He's a little bit older than me. He's like that little bit older big brother, but I was a little farther ahead early spiritually. And so the first trip we went on, we memorized the book of Philippians together. The next trip we went on, we memorized the book of James together. This guy's got zeal that is over the top. He talks about God like he's just in the room, and he's just winsome Barnabas. And what I know and what he knows is, no matter where we're at in the world or the country, it's just we're peers. Third area is Timothy, someone you get to invest in. And there was a guy who was a football coach in that little town, and AC had me and him meet together, and we'd review and memorize these verses. See, you do life together. The thinking great thoughts and, reading great books. I don't know about you. I'm not disciplined to do that. But you find a couple guys or you find a couple gals, and you say, let's do it on this morning at this time. And we went to the feed store. And we'd eat a little breakfast, and we'd all go over our verses and memorize a couple verses, and little by little by little by little, you grow. But you got to look out the windshield and ask yourself, who out there could be a Paul in my life right now? Who out there could be a Barnabas that I could share life? Who could be a Timothy that, and you know what? You only have to be a half a step ahead of someone to teach them what you know. You don't have to have it all together. Final thing I'd like to share here is get you started without getting you discouraged. And so I want to give a warning to heed. A warning to heed. And the warning is this, for Timothy's looking for Paul's. Often, God will use a variety of people. Don't believe there's some person that will have it all together that's going to be this person that is going to sustain and help you grow for the rest of your life. It'll be more like a revolving door of different people, different seasons to meet different needs as you grow. Now, sometimes you get that special person that you stay in touch with them. I think that's more rare than it is normal. But don't get expectations where you're asking someone or believing God's going to bring someone, they're going to be in your life. And for as much as Prof has helped me, it's not like we're on the phone every week. We're not on the phone every month. We're not on the phone sometimes for 7, 8, 9 months. He has a unique role and relationship that he speaks into my life at the right times in the right way. And I have a window or a door open that whenever I want to, I can call. So when you're looking for that Paul, don't get your expectations like they're going to meet with you every week and it's going to be this way or that way. Secondly, a warning for Paul's looking for Timothy's. You can't get where all you do is give. Some of you are in a season of your life where you're giving to people, you're giving to people, you're giving to people, but there's no one giving into you. And you find can't figure out why you're losing the joy and you're tired. Because you know what? You got you need some VEP people in your life. Very encouraging people. When you're a Paul, when people are looking to you and you've hit a time of maturity and you're helping this guy over here and a Bible study with these women over here and then you're teaching over here and you're trying to raise this, you can give. And Paul's, what happened is a lot of people really get burned out because no one's given to them. You don't give yourself permission to get renewed. You don't give yourself permission to have fun. You don't give yourself permission to let someone build into your life or have a few relationships. This is hard for some of you guys and some of you driven women. Have some relationships where you don't have to get anything done. You just get to hang out. Let me give you now a word of perspective to consider. Is that I think what happens is we get these categories, and I'm going to suggest that in every category of Paul's and Barnabas's and Timothy's is God often will give role players in your life. And I've put a few of them here. And I'll give you a couple highlights. And, they may be a Paul, but their role as a Paul is a father figure. That was AC for me. Huge impact in my life. But then some people, God gives you a cheerleader, someone who just cares and it gets excited for you.